Danny Segura for MMA Junkie. I'm here with Derik Santos, trainer of Vitor Belfort, as he is getting ready to get Vitor all ready and all geared up for his September 11th bout against Oscar De La Hoya in Los Angeles. First of all, Derek, how's it been like to work with Vitor? I know you come from the boxing world, right, for the most part. Vitor's an MMA guy, but how's it been like to work with an MMA guy for a boxing fight?
Well, with Vitor, it's been a little easier than most, and not because everybody's giving me, every MMA fighter who's come to me has always given me great attitude and great effort. The thing was that even I realized years ago when I first had some sessions with Vitor for UFC fights and things like that, he can box a lot better than most MMA fighters. And I kind of find out in his background he did a lot of boxing sparring. He even went to Cuba at one point and trained with the national team there. And so it's been a little easier transition there. Over the years, even though he's been sort of semi-retired, he'd come, hey coach, can I work out with you today? And he would come here and we'd work out. And he's been really focused. It's been pretty impressive his level of focus, and he's been getting exactly what I want out of him.
When Vitor approached you to get him ready for a bout with Oscar De La Hoya, were you shocked? I mean, Oscar hasn't fought in 13 years, right? It seems like these old school matchups are coming back.
Yes, I was, but the way that story went was that we were going to fight an exhibition fight against Tarzan, which is down here in Teofimo Lopez undercard. What ended up happening is that card got postponed, right? So within a week, he calls me one day and he says to me, "Hey, coach, you think we can fight Oscar De La Hoya?" And I thought he was asking me in a hypothetical way. And I said, well, I suppose we could. I said, I don't know if that'll come to fruition. I thought he was just trying to come up with ideas or that somebody had mentioned, and okay, we'll see what happens. So he's like, okay, so you think we can do it, right? You can get me ready in time for that? And I was like, yeah, I can get you ready in time for that. But I said, we'll see what happens. If it happens, great. I hang up the phone. I go to train my other professional boxers. 20 minutes later, some of my professional boxers like, you're fighting Oscar De La Hoya? And I'm like, how'd they know? That conversation was, private between me and Vitor. No, it's on ESPN. It's all on all the news, fashion, Bleacher Reports, man. So I called Vitor back. I said, hey, this thing is, and he goes, no, coach, I wasn't calling you, asking you hypothetically. I was asking for your approval. If you said yes, I was going to tell my management yes, and we were going to go. So I did. And I said, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So here we are.
So it was just on, just like that. Yeah.
Just like that.
So talk about the matchup, right? It's interesting. Vitor, of a former UFC heavyweight champion, somebody that fought at 205, 185. Oscar, for the most part, fought his career at 147, 154. How big is or how big is going to be the size advantage here for Vitor? Because it seems they're two different body types, two different frames.
It's not really that different actually right now. If you've seen Oscar De La Hoya now, I saw him about a little over a month ago on one of the cards we had over there. And Oscar's pretty buff. He's been hitting the weights, and he's a hair shorter than Vitor, maybe an inch and a half or something like that. But size-wise, I know he'll trim down, but so will we. So, at 85, the weight limit, it's going to be somewhat different because I'm sure Oscar did not fight coming off that weight. But Oscar himself is a pretty in-shape, buff guy now.
And as far as the matchup itself, how do you prepare? Because we haven't seen Oscar step in the ring in 13 years. Last time he fought was against Pacquiao, I believe, where, Vitor, we saw him fairly recently, right, in 2018. 2020 doesn't count, obviously, because of the pandemic. It put everybody on ice. But how do you train for Oscar? Do you look back at his tape or what?
Well, I did, just because I'm a detailed type coach, and I try to do that. But I think if you understand fighter psychology, Oscar is going to revert to being Oscar of old. So I know he's going to go to the left hook, the lead hand uppercut. I understand that. Those are his two best punches. He's not all of a sudden going to come out with something new. He's an elite athlete, and the athlete is going to revert to remembering what they knew best. I'm sure he's going to try to use the jab a lot and some speed. How long he can maintain the speed is a different question. But, I got a pretty good idea what Oscar is going to try to do.
And what do you make of all these sort of crossover matchups between MMA and boxing? Do you like it?
Well, I'm going to tell you at first, I didn't. But something like this and some of the other matches that I've seen that are more at a level that makes more sense, these guys were two elite athletes in their sports. They're relatively very close in age. Um, they were in their fields were high skill sets, so that's more of an even match. If you're, I don't want to pick on him, but if you're Jake Paul and you're fighting somebody who never thrown a punch or doesn't train hard, it's a completely different thing. Like, I'm against that. You know what I mean? But I'm not against, this legends thing where, like, more even fights, retired fighters want to come back, and as long as it's not too lopsided, no, I'm not against that at all. It's interesting. I was very happy to see Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. I know them. I know them both, and Roy is Roy. I know Roy, and Mike. I was particularly happy to see Mike back in the ring and see Mike smiling, because I saw him growing up. I worked at one point for Mike Tyson Promotions. We all know the ups and downs, roller coaster of his life, and I'm always a fan of a fighter coming out of it well at the end of the tunnel, no matter what fighter it is. And the same thing with Oscar, the same thing with Vitor. And so it made me happy to see Mike in the ring, moving well, happy, healthy, so.
He got in stupid shape for that matchup. I mean, he looked amazing. Lastly, give us a prediction. Give us a call. How does Vitor get it done against Oscar De La Hoya?
I think we can win a decision. I would say, I believe we're going to win a decision. I'll say that clearly.
All right, Derik. Well, I appreciate the time. Best of luck in September 11th.